Coming up next on the Breadwinning Mums.
You know, everyone has their God-given talents, whatever they are. Don't shrink them for the sake of other people's comfort. I've seen a lot of myself experience this. I've seen a lot of other women experience this, where you're kind of taught to be passive and say yes and make people feel comfortable, but actually that's not always living true to your talents. I think a really strong leader sometimes does require making some people uncomfortable and making hard decisions. And if you're afraid to do that, then it's going to be really hard to live your full potential. Because if you're doing something that you really like and you're passionate about and you're supposed to do, there are going to be dissenters in the room.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jane Lim. On the Breadwinning Mums podcast, we debunk the myths of working mums, cheer each other on, and show the world that it's okay to be a mum and still pursue excellence in your chosen area of expertise. Today we're chatting with Roslyn Martin, a fellow breadwinning mum with 2 children, Preston and Blakeley. Roslyn is a senior product manager at Macquarie Group who has recently finished her MBA studies at AGSM and will be starting a new role as a Director of Innovation Strategy. She shared with us her life story about growing up in Papua New Guinea, moving back to Sydney as a pre-adolescent girl, and starting her MBA study during her second maternity leave. Here we go with Roslyn Martin.
Hello, Roslyn.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
Good. How are you going?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm so excited to do this with you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for making the time. So obviously we haven't actually met in person, but we knew each other from the MBA ladies group from the AGSM, where you've just finished your MBA executive. Is that right?
That's right. Last week, yes.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
All pressure's off, I guess, so you can relax a little bit more and enjoy your cuppa.
Yeah, exactly. Sleep in a bit more, which is always welcome at this stage in life.
That's right. Okay. So let's go back to the very beginning, I guess. Would you mind telling us where you grew up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Sydney, but my parents moved to Papua New Guinea shortly after I was born. So spent the first probably 8 years of my life in Papua New Guinea and all around Papua New Guinea, and then moved to Sydney, Sutherland Shire when I was 8, and then grew up in the Sutherland Shire pretty much ever since then. Yeah.
Nice. Do you remember any of your time back in Papua New Guinea?
I do. I really do. You know, I remember the strangest things. Like I remember we had a guava tree in our backyard because it was the tropics. We had all of the beautiful fruits. And so as children, we would often be playing out in the backyard, picking gorgeous fruits and eating them. I remember we'd change schools a little bit. So we're at an international school and then a local school. And I definitely remember the heat.
Yeah. And humidity.
But it was an awesome lifestyle to grow up as a child because there were lots of other children around you. That saying, it takes a village. We definitely just grew up with other families and other children, and so it was lovely. But ironically, it was less safe at that point in time in Papua New Guinea. We had more freedom, but then we came to Sydney and there was a bit less of that community as much.
Yeah.
It was more, everyone was like in their homes and on TV and things like that. So
Yeah.
I do remember quite a bit of it, and more the juxtaposition between growing up in New Guinea and then moving to Sydney. That's probably most prominent in my mind.
Yeah. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have an older sister, an older brother, and a younger brother.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Okay, so 2 of each.
Yeah, 4 of us. It was a wild time. It was
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Okay. And how did that transition, I guess, from being a less safe environment, but very close-knit community to a much safer environment, but everyone's quite separate. They have their own independent lives, especially when you're 8 years old. So you're about to start your adolescence journey, right? How did that transition? How was it like for you?
Yeah, I remember. So a few things I remember. One is the fact that we could just walk the streets blew my mind, because it wasn't really safe to do so in some of the parks that we lived in New Guinea. So that was awesome. I loved that. But I distinctly remember one time after school, I said to one of the friends, "Oh, can I come to your house to play?" And she looked at me and said, "That's really rude. You can't ask that." Where I grew up in New Guinea,
you just go.
Exactly. You're always at other people's houses and always just say, "Oh, go here." And so that was a contrasting moment for me. I remember so there was that difference. And then just there was so much more TV watching, I think, in than, I mean, Papua New Guinea, there was only one channel. But a lot of TV. That was another kind of big contrast for me.
Yeah. Do you still have your childhood friend? Are you still keeping in touch?
Yeah, so some of them not from Papua New Guinea so much. Actually, there's probably 1 or 2. But from the Sutherland Shire where I live, a lot of people stay in the area. So do have a lot of the childhood friends still, which is nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. And so what was the young Roslyn like, even from way back when?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. Like, if you'd have asked me this before I had my daughter, my answer would be very different. But you know how they say your children are like a little mirror to you and your personality? Oh gosh, so now I can answer that with a bit more of my mother's perspective, perhaps. Little Roslyn was probably quite headstrong and quite rebellious. If someone says to me I can't do something, I go after it with force. Yeah. And so does my 3-year-old, almost 3-year-old daughter. It's such a punish to try and parent. But it's totally what I was like. So I'm just getting a taste of my own medicine. Mum would love hearing that. Very much I loved dancing and I loved school. So they were kind of my 2 loves. What else was I like? I was very close with my brothers, so a bit rough and tumble. We wrestled a lot, had a lot of fun. But we were definitely a handful for my parents.
Yeah. Is your older sister the first in the family?
Correct, she is. Yes.
Okay. So you're closer to your older and younger brothers.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, nice. And so when you're still a pre-adolescent girl, I guess, back in Papua New Guinea, did you always know that you were going to work in your career?
You know, it's so funny, Jane. If people had asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, I mean, I probably didn't really know. I was probably wanted to be a fairy or something when I was in Guinea. But once I moved to Sydney, I used to want to be those people who walk around the city wearing suits. So I had no idea what they did. And I was like, I want to be one of these people who just like wear the suit and they walk around the city. I think that's pretty cool. And that's what I ended up becoming.
Yeah, because it looked awesome at the time.
It looked so cool to me. It was so grown up. And like back then it was probably like the 90s, early 2000s. So big shoulders.
The high shoulders. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I wanted to be. And you could say I fulfilled my dreams. And then a bit later in life wanted to be a dancer, which I did get to be for a bit. Probably not the best long-term career choice, but I really, really enjoyed dancing. So I got to teach as well, which is good.
Wow. How old were you when you first started your dancing lesson?
I think did start when I was really, really young in Papua New Guinea, but I don't quite remember that. Definitely once I came to Sydney is when I got regularly into dancing. So that would have been at 8, I think, 8 to 10.
Yeah.
But I didn't really, I was just doing 1 or 2 lessons a week, but I really went into it actually during high school, when most people get out of dancing, they really leaned into it. So yeah, when I was probably 15, 16, I really tried to take it seriously.
Wow. And is this a classical style or more of the contemporary?
All of the above. I really wanted to be good at classical ballet. I just didn't have the body for it, but I had the determination. So did a lot of ballet. I ended up getting my teacher's certificate with the Royal Academy of Dance, which was just an awesome experience. And taught classical ballet. I love it. I'm not naturally gifted at it, but absolutely love it. So I would do more of the hip hop and the contemporary dancing where you get more of the gigs, the dancing gigs. So commercial dancing, they call it. Yeah.
Okay. So were you doing that professionally or after work?
Yeah. So I would do it, I think it was probably after high school when I started getting my first professional dancing jobs.
Nice.
And I'd always told Mum I want to be a dancer, and she said that's not a good idea. If you want to do that, you also have to get a degree to fall back on. And at the time, I was a bit disgruntled about that, but in hindsight, very glad she forced me to do that because I did get an injury quite early in the dance career. And yeah, luckily I had some commerce degree knowledge to fall back on and was able to follow a career in the corporate world.
Wow. So when did you do your degree?
So straight out of high school, it was 2005 I started my commerce degree. Yeah.
All right.
And so to earn money during university was all the dancing. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you were studying and working as a dancer as well, professionally. Yes. That's awesome. What happened? What was the accident?
It's actually so annoying because, I'm doing all these big jobs and I'm dancing on grass in heels, and I actually injured myself teaching 3-year-olds how to skip. I know. Oh, it was tragic. But I loved and I still got to teach even with the injuries, and it still bothers me a bit now, just the ongoing injury, but it was very devastating at that point in time.
So you knew that you were going to be that suit-wearing power woman. How about a mum? Did you always know that you were going to be a mum?
Yeah, I think I never intentionally thought I want to be a parent. It just was what you did. It's just what I assumed was going to happen. But before I met my husband, my friends and I would joke that I'm going to be the single woman with 40 cats, 60 years old, just because I wasn't really that into the boys, or I just wasn't that interested. But then, I met my husband and ended up getting married quite young, actually. And we waited 6 or 7 years because we got married when I was 24. And then...
Oh, wow. So you met in high school?
No, we met when I was 21 or 22. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So you met 3 years before you got married?
Correct, yes. And then I didn't want to have children until I'd established a career and had a house and was 30. For some reason that was a good number in my mind. Yeah. And so that's how it happened. Yeah.
Wow. How did you guys meet?
Funny story, actually. It was New Year's Eve. All of my girlfriends were away at Byron Bay, living their best lives, but I had dancing jobs that I had to do. So I had a gig I had to attend, do a dance at a gig. And I remember going home after the gig, sitting there in my house, tracksuit pants. I just ordered a family-sized pizza for myself and I was watching TV. And I was thinking, like, oh, Roslyn, you're not going to meet your husband sitting on the couch watching TV. But all my friends are away, and then I randomly got a text message from an old friend who said, hey, like, I'm out the front of your house. We're on our way to a party. Do you want to come? I thought, oh, man, this pizza looks so good. It just arrived. But, okay, I'll go out just for an hour or two. You know, it's better than sitting at home alone. So, yeah, met them out the front, went to the party, and I didn't know anybody at this party. And I did see one girl who I knew she'd dated a boy from my high school like 8 years before. So I hung out with her for a bit. I'm like, do you remember me? I don't know anyone. And then my now husband was standing next to me the whole time, but not talking. And he was gorgeous. And I thought, this guy's a dickhead. Why are you standing here not talking to me? You're clearly good looking and just an idiot.
He was probably too shy to say anything.
That's what I found out later. He was too shy. He saw me. He was too shy to talk to me, but didn't want any other boys to talk to me. So I thought he stood next to me.
Oh, so cute.
Really, really cute. But it turns out he was friends with the girl who I'd known from like 8 years ago. And then the next day she messaged, let's hang out. So I hung out with her, and he was getting her to put in a good word for him. And so, she kind of eventually teed us up, and he asked me to go for a skate because I loved skateboarding back then. And I thought that was awesome. I wasn't keen on the romantic stuff at that stage. I was like, yeah, let's go for a skate. And so
there is nothing that says date with skate hanging out in a skate,
exactly.
skate park.
Sure, there's no feelings there.
Yeah.
But then I did end up falling in love, and
after a while.
I think actually pretty quickly. It was, I can't remember, was I 21? I must have been 21 or 22. No, because I got married at 24.
Okay.
So we had a really, really fun time together. He was really fun, and we skated together, and we did activities, and then next thing I know, we were engaged.
Okay. Nice. All right. So what does he do now? What's his name?
Yeah, his name's Josh. He sells power tools. He loves working with his hands. He's always constantly in the garage. We have a garage about the size of a house, just full of tools. In fact, right now he's cutting down a giant tree in our front yard, and I think he's going to make a table from it.
Nice.
He was a carpenter, now sells power tools. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So how are you guys juggling work and family demands?
Oh, this is the golden question. Well, look, it's been a journey. When we've had our firstborn, because I was on maternity leave and he was working, it just made sense for me to do most of the housework. And once I returned to work, I've been really, really fortunate to work for a company that actively encourage working parents, and they assign you a return to work coach because they're really, really supportive. And my manager at the time said, you just tell me how many days you want to work. We're flexible. We can work with you. So I started just 2 days a week, and then worked up to 5 days. And our return to work coach, she was awesome. If anyone has access to one, I highly recommend.
Is this when you were working for Macquarie?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but they have been so supportive through this journey. So the return to work coach helped us map out what are all the things that need to be done in the house. So think like washing, dishes, pick up, childcare, like all these things. And then we, as a couple, went through, okay, what are the things you hate doing and what are the things you don't mind? So for me, I'm sure most mums do, like PTSD over laundry. I hate laundry. Right. How can we either outsource it or hand that over? And initially, I handed over, and I say that in inverted commas, the washing, but I hadn't handed over the psychological load of it. So we ended up dividing up the work based on that, who hates what, who's okay with what. And then as we went along, realised actually the psychological load needs to be handed over as well. So over a couple of months handed over the psychological load of washing to him. So he owns laundry. I own, well, then the MBA happened. So I currently don't own much at all. But at the time, I owned groceries and feeding the family. He owned everything outside the house. So, the grass, whatever. And we just allocated days of drop-offs and pickups. And when it came to sick days, which, God, every working parent knows about this. First 6 months of daycare, your child is sick every single bloody week.
Yes.
The trauma of that. We just shared, and we were so fortunate to have incredibly supportive workplaces, which kind of allowed for that balance. So it's a long way of answering your question. How do we manage everything? We strategically divided up the work, listed it all out, divided it out, based on who hates it the least.
So you're married to Josh, currently have 2 children, right?
Correct, yes.
What are their names? How old are they?
Yeah, so Preston is 5 and Blakeley is almost 3.
I love their names. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 and 3, kindy and preschool or daycare?
Yeah, daycare, and my son starts school in a few weeks. So this year coming
nice.
up.
Okay, so the early childhood is quite hands-on, right? Quite manual. Are you doing any certain routine with Josh that you think is really beneficial to your relationship?
Yeah, it's true. So for the last 2.5 years, I've had the MBA as well as working and
everything
parenting.
Else. Yeah.
So it's been a mess and a bit of a blur. It's really interesting, Jane. So I'm diverging a bit, but I'll get back to answering the question. We were talking about as a couple, like, what's the hardest thing we've been through together? And for me, I said, like having a premature baby, for sure. That was the most stressful thing. And he looked at me and said, no, you doing the MBA has been the hardest thing. And I was like, what? Yeah. I've had a great time. He has not had a great time.
We had a great time.
Exactly. So to answer your question, what things do you do to connect? Well, not a lot the last few years, but we're going to proactively start doing some things like even just once the kids go to bed, rather than going in separate ways. To just hang out for a bit. Getting more babysitters in so we can go and do dates and things like that. It's rebuilding season coming up for us.
That's nice. That's a really nice way to put it. What was about you doing the MBA that you think was the hardest for Josh? The fact that he had to cover everything else to do with home life?
No, the way he puts it is just my being absent. He's like, you're physically present but cognitively absent, which is totally true, because I would be the way I balance it all is I'd wake up at 4:45, go to the gym, come home, study, and then get the kids ready and head off to work. And then when I came home, whilst I was doing the home stuff, I'd normally be thinking about like an assignment that I'm working on, or a concept that I'd recently learned, or just something was always going on in my mind. So I think that was the hardest thing here.
Okay, interesting. And so one of your kids was a preemie?
Yeah, my firstborn.
Oh, so how early was he?
He was 6 weeks. What had happened was, I think I was at work. I think it was about 30 weeks at work, and I went on mat leave early because I had all these physical dilemmas with the pregnancy. And then the first week they scanned and they're like, there's not much fluid in here. And I said, yeah, I've noticed I've been leaking fluid. And the doctor was like, what? Why didn't you tell me? I was like, I just thought maybe
you thought it was normal.
I don't know. And then so they were monitoring me, and the fluid was getting lower and lower and lower, and the baby had stopped growing after a couple of weeks. And I remember being there and the woman was scanning my belly, and I think I was 36. No, I must have been 34 weeks at this stage. So they'd been monitoring me for 4 weeks, and she scanned, and like the face drained from her blood. She said, the blood drained from her face. And she said, do you have to go anywhere? I said, no, I'm on that leave. Why? She kind of left the room and came back and said, you need to go straight to hospital. The baby's heartbeat's fine. The circulation's fine. It's just there's not a lot of fluid in there. He's starting to shrink ultimately. So my obstetrician at that time was in a yacht, the Caribbean. So I had to go straight to hospital. There was another obstetrician there. It's like, baby has to come out, but we don't have a pediatrician on hand. Can you just go home and we'll try and find one? I'll call you as soon as one comes, and we have to do a cesarean because the baby probably won't survive being pushed out. So it was very scary, very traumatizing. We went home, I didn't have all the things ready, like the cot and stuff. Went back to hospital. They delivered the baby really, really quickly. The baby was fine, healthy. He wasn't even that small. They thought he was going to be I can't remember now. I thought he was going to be 1 point something kilos, but he was 2.1 maybe.
Okay.
So still little. And then he was in special care for 3 weeks. But the good thing is, the silver lining, right, about special care is that you have these baby whisperers with you and your baby for the first 3 weeks. So they were coaching us on feeding, sleeping, and so by the time I took my baby home, he was completely sleep trained, fed well. They told me all these things like, your baby's very temperature sensitive. If it's not 24 degrees, he won't sleep. And so just all these things. So then when I did bring the baby home, comparatively to all the trauma, it was a dream. I was like, what's everyone whinging about? This baby sleeps like all night. And I know
he slept all night.
Yeah, I know.
What?
it's my second did not, so it lulled me into
Yeah, most babies don't.
false sense of security. He's just slept all night his whole life pretty much. There's been a couple of periods where he's woken up once or twice, but
oh wow.
Yeah, he's an angel. Even just his whole life he's been an angel. And then his sister, he's made up for it. He put us through all of the trauma of sleep and feeding dramas and things like that. But
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. My first one was also, we actually have the opposite problem. He was there too long. I was 42 weeks.
Oh, jeez, Jane.
And it was in the dead of summer. I was just so bothered. I wanted to do things naturally because it was the first. I didn't want to get induced. I waited until 42 weeks. But then I started leaking, and then they just said, we have to induce you. So when he came out, he wasn't breathing as much. So they took him straight to the ICU. He was there for only a week, but it was enough to feel like you're kind of separated because he was in that, incubator. He couldn't really hold him or feed him direct.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, it was quite a traumatic experience, I guess, especially
really
being the first.
Yeah, and you have all those hormones. I don't know about you, but I cried for 3 weeks.
Yes.
Straight.
Yeah. In the dark of the hospital room, no one was there, and you feel so guilty. I don't know about you, but I felt so guilty. I was like, I should have listened to the doctors, but you don't know, right? These things. Maybe
you start to think like, could I have done something different?
Yeah.
What did I do that triggered this? And I think as well, like any mum who has the slightest illness or ailment with your baby, it's just, particularly the first, it's just so all-consuming, traumatic. And I think for me, the only thing that really got me through it was reaching out to people who'd also had premature babies and being like, is your kid okay? Like, well, talk me through it. And then I'd get them to send me photos and videos of their functioning 3-year-old just to be like, okay.
It's okay. It's all okay.
It's going to be okay eventually. Even though at the time, and probably like similar to you at the time, it's so
it's all consuming.
all consuming. So he was in there for a week, and then could you take him home straight away?
Yes. Yes.
And did you have to have ongoing treatment for him?
No,
No.
thankfully that was just it.
Yeah.
What about Preston?
He had to have medication like iron and some other regular medication for him. And then he had, often premature babies can have, I can't remember what it is, but there's a couple of things like their umbilical cord can, where the umbilical goes in, it's a bit tricky there. I can't remember. I just knew that they were there. It's interesting how your brain just like washes that out.
Yeah.
It was very traumatic at the time, and now I can't even remember the details.
Yeah, I know. My younger brother just had his almost 1.5-year-old, and I was just holding the baby, and I thought, geez, I can't really. My youngest is now only 4, so it wasn't that long ago, but I just thought, geez, I can't remember when they were this small,
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how?
Yeah.
I can't believe
You were just on survival mode, I guess, and you just go through with emotion.
That's it. Survival mode. Yep.
Hello, breadwinning mums. To start 2023 with a bang, I'd like to invite all of you to the inaugural Breadwinning Mums meetup. It will be on Sunday, 15th of January 2023, starting from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sydney time at Opera Bar, Macquarie Street, Sydney. Feel free to take along your mums, sisters, daughters, colleagues, and all of the breadwinning mums in your life so we can continue to cheer each other on. Have a safe and festive holidays, and I look forward to seeing you all in person next year. See you then.
So you've been married since you're 24.
Yes.
You've had 2 children. Your career's progressed and you've completed the MBA. How has your marriage transformed throughout all of these things that's changed in your life?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It does ebb and flow and evolve over time, doesn't it? I think with every hardship, it can get a bit stronger or it can go the other way. We're really intentional about openly communicating. I think I went into marriage, I read a book, story of my life.
Don't we all?
I read a book and now I ate my whole life around this book. I think it was Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence. I think it was the first one I read, and he had mentioned a study around married people and how the successful marriages, here are the top 3 things that are most likely to be attributed to successful marriages. And one of them was really open, honest communication. Another one was appreciation. And I can't remember the other thing. So we just try communicate as openly and as often as possible. I'm brilliant at communicating my feelings as soon as I feel them, which can be a bad thing. As he likes to think about it more and then communicate later. So it's really interesting how we've evolved through all the different challenges and tried to communicate openly and just even things like I thought we're having a great time while I'm doing the MBA and he's not. That was a really eye-opening thing, but we wouldn't have known that if we didn't openly communicate about it. Definitely changed with kids. I mean, he's just been phenomenal with the children and the housework, and so he owns Feeding the Family now, so that's handed over to him, and he's just doing such a wonderful job with it. So my admiration and respect for him has improved since seeing him with the kids, which is awesome. Maybe I don't know. I should have asked you about from his perspective. Actually, I did. No. So last night, actually, because I got your questions, and so I said to my husband, like, what are the top 3 best things about being married to me and the top 3 worst things? And his top 3 best things were that I manage all the finances and life admin. So he really loves that and appreciates that because he hates forms. So I do all of the bank forms and things like that. What's the other one? That I like to have fun, which I do, which I thought would annoy him, but actually he really likes that, so that's nice. Can't remember the third. The 2 worst things were when I get into task mode. I don't know if you do this, or I don't know if this is a thing, but if I'm focused on something, such as, I really want to clean the house, then I go into this like rage cleaning monster. Where it's like, get out of my way, I need to clean. He doesn't love that. But it's my most productive state of being. So, and he probably sees more of it since having children because the house is nice. But yeah, so that's, to answer your question, how has it evolved? I think at different stages, you kind of see different elements of your partner and kind of like grow together and grow apart. But then just, I think, talking about it has been really helpful for us, definitely. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Okay. So you've started your MBA when you were on mat leave, on your second one, right?
Yes.
Why did you decide to do that to start with?
Well, okay, so I actually started the journey of an MBA. So I did one module at a different university, one subject at a different university before I was pregnant. Why I wanted to do the MBA, there's a few reasons. One was that I noticed a gap in the way the executives at my workplace communicated and how I communicated. And I really wanted to, in order to be effective in my role, I needed to communicate effectively to the senior leadership in a meaningful way for them. So that was one thing. And I knew that it had something to do around what's taught in the MBA, so corporate finance and accounting. So there was that piece. The second piece was I was really, really interested to learn the newest way of thinking in business. I thought the MBA would close some gaps for me, but I was also well aware that some of the MBA content is quite outdated. So at the same time as learning the MBA, I started to learn more about agile ways of working and the more modern ways of working. And then the third one was I did want to progress my career at a quicker pace than I knew I could achieve without it, because I knew I wanted to have another baby, and it does really slow down your career progression. So they're the 3 reasons. 1, communicate more effectively with leadership. 2, learn the content. 3, career progression. Why? So I did one module before I was pregnant, and then when I fell pregnant, I completely stopped, because for me, pregnancy is torture, and all I want to do is sleep and eat and nothing else. Did
you get sick?
Did
you throw up as well?
I got sick, and I get all the aches and pains, and one of the side effects of pregnancy for me is losing motivation. For anything outside.
It just saps your energy.
Yeah,
because you're growing this thing. So
exactly. And then when I had my second baby, I knew that I needed the cognitive stimulation, because with my first, while I was on maternity leave, I went a bit mad. I just needed some stimulation cognitively. So I thought perfect timing. Let me do the complete opposite of mothering, which is accounting and finance and corporate finance. The spreadsheet does not spew on me. The spreadsheet listens to me. It balances out. Complete opposite of parenting.
And it lets you sleep when you're done.
Exactly. Like the complete opposite of the chaos of looking after a baby is accounting and finance.
So how old was Blakeley when you first started the MBA program now with AGSM?
3 months.
Wow.
Old.
Just after the 4th trimester.
Yeah, exactly. And we had just gone into lockdown.
Oh, no. So were you the online?
Yeah.
Everything online?
Everything was online, which was perfect for me, because I would be in class breastfeeding. And the way I could work it out is I'd put the baby down to sleep, I'd put the monitor on and I'd go into the office. And so I have the monitor next to my computer so I can watch her safely.
Yeah.
But it just meant I got that like 2 hours of unbroken focus.
Yeah.
What is the best I've ever done at uni was that first semester, because I was so hungry for something other than parenting and being in my house.
Yeah.
So it started when she was 3 months old. I loved accounting and finance, and then I did corporate finance. It was just beautiful because she was such a difficult sleeper as well. I just latched onto those spreadsheets like you wouldn't believe. But what I didn't account for was the fact that I would then have to go back to work with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old and doing an MBA.
Yeah.
And that took a lot of discipline, time boxing, a lot of support from my husband. I'm just really fortunate how my managers and just the broader business I worked for are really encouraged flexible working and actually lived and breathed it. So I was able to manage. I was managing well. Clearly my husband wasn't. I thought it was great. It was hard, really hard, but I'm really glad I did it.
Yeah. And just graduated. Just finished up, right? So congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Did you mention that you are thinking about having another child before?
No, God, no.
No? Okay, all right.
1000% done. It's not actually not so much the children, it's more my body. Like I just can't go through that trauma again.
Yeah.
And all of that. So and a bit the children. It's a lot of work.
It is, yeah. And it's kind of nice to have one of each. We feel like pressure's off.
Exactly. Well, I wanted to have 5 until I had my daughter.
Wow.
Okay. Like,
until you have your daughter?
I was like, so my firstborn is just such an angel. If I had like 3 or 4 of him, that's fine.
Yeah.
No sleep trauma, but this, it's the sleep trauma. That's the bit that
it
really
is,
kills you, isn't it?
But you know what? Those sleep deprivation period were the skills that really got me through this MBA, because I'm like, 5 hours sleep. Yep, let's go. I'm still high functioning.
So what was your routine to fit in the study with the working in parenting?
Oh, so I run my own financial planning business.
Yes.
But because it's my own, I can dial it up and down as much as I want to, right?
Yeah.
So at the moment, I'm not taking, since I started the MBA, I haven't taken on any new clients. I've just been servicing my current ones.
Yeah.
And so I officially go to the office 1 day a week, the day where I don't have any subjects. And because I live quite far from the campus, I live an hour and a half away each way. I don't tend to go to the office after unless I really have something to do. But so during the 4 weeks, the 4 days a week that I go to campus, I just do as much schoolwork that I need to.
Yes, because you're doing the full-time course. Got it. And you do that's 4 subjects at a time?
Yes.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. But as you said, I love it. I love the it is intense, it is high demand, but you learn a lot. I feel like my brain's really expanding a lot. Yeah,
it's completely changed the way I think about the world, the way I approach problem solving.
Yes.
It's parenting even.
Even in relationship, right? I feel like I'm a lot more centered in a way, not as reactive.
Yes, more strategic and and I'm less stressed, which is ironic because it was such a pressure cooker of a lifestyle for 3 years, but I seem to be less stressed.
So obviously relationship dynamics can be tricky at times. Has there been a period or a phase where things were quite spicy in your marriage life? What did you guys do to get through it? And if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently? Without going to the specifics, if you don't want to.
I think so. I'm very fortunate. My husband is very level-headed and cool, calm, and collected. There's times that I get spicy and he's just
let
all
you
calm and collected.
let you yeah.
Exactly. I think there was a time when it was the peak of COVID, when we weren't allowed to leave the house. Do you remember that phase where it was like you weren't even allowed to leave your suburb? You had to just stay. That's right. And as a family, like all you could do was go for walks. So we went for a bushwalk with the kids. It was 4 months since I'd had more than 40 minutes sleep. So my daughter had, a long story, but ultimately she had an allergy to certain proteins, which meant she was in chronic pain for 4 months and wake up every 40 minutes screaming for 2 hours. So it was like, I was broken. I was completely broken. I was breastfeeding and I had to cut out all these foods. And ironically, the only times I would break down would be like between uni subjects. So not while we're studying, because I just had this outlet, this escapism, but during the subject. I remember going for a bushwalk and he's like, "You've been so snappy." And I was like, "I'm breastfed, bro." I broke down. And then he just kind of went, "Oh yeah." Like he understood why I was being so snappy, and I was so horrid. I was pretty rancid. There was a sleep deprivation. I couldn't eat anything from a packet. I couldn't have soy, dairy, or egg. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't see friends. You couldn't go to the gym. We took our son out of daycare as well. So it was just my idea of torture. Exactly. And I think that was really hard for everyone, right? Every single person during that time. I think it was the second or third lockdown. It was just horrible. To answer your question, how did we get through it? To be honest, it was just his grace and his kindness, where he just kind of gave me this space. He's like, "Hey, what do you need to do?" "I need to sleep." And so together, he was like, "All right, I'm going to take over all the food stuff." So he prepped all my food because that was just doing my head in. Just these little quick wins we worked out. You couldn't even have, I think there was a stage where you couldn't even have like grandparents over to help out with the kids. It was like really intense. His graciousness, open communication, and then just doing little quick wins. Also, it kind of like, well, that phased out and got a bit better. I remember maybe a few months later is when you could finally, they just opened up the suburbs pretty much. And I'd stopped breastfeeding and my husband said, "You just need to go. You need to go to a hotel room in the city, go book the Four Seasons for a couple of nights and just like be by yourself."
Oh, that's so nice.
So good. Yeah. So I did that. And just, like when you come out of mothering and just to have room service, and I spent a whole day in my robe and I got massages, and then I think I went to a few museums. Like there were things it was still real, like dead in the city. No one was out yet. So did that. It's just working out, like trying to figure out what you need to get into a better mindset, I think is what it is. And I'm just really fortunate that my husband is so nurturing and caring, sometimes to his own detriment, because he'll put like the family ahead of him, but working out what we need and then getting a plan in place and executing on it. So we also, once we could have grandparents over, we'd schedule like grandpa this day, grandma this day, the other grandma this day, and just had a structured time without caring responsibilities. And that's kind of what helped. I'm a bit more of a tactical person. I'll have the big emotional sort of blow up and then go, all right, how can we problem solve, and then go and fix it that way. And my husband just lets me do my
that's beautiful
process.
That's good. And it's great for him to see that you need that break as well.
Oh, he was begging me to leave. Please go. You're making life hell for everyone.
Okay. All right. So Preston and Blakeley, can you tell us what they're like?
Yes. Preston is an angel. He's all his dad. Caring, nurturing, responsible, great sleeper, not that great a eater. He eats anything that's the color beige. He's down for beige food, and that's about it. Which I'm sure a lot of parents can empathize with. Probably takes on a bit too much responsibility, because it's really cute. Before we were even pregnant with my second, I'd be asking, I want a baby sister. Can I have a baby sister, please?
Oh, that's lovely.
Really cute. Then he got his baby sister. So Blakely came out all guns a-blazing, this child. And we joke that she has 3 parents. It's me, my husband, and her older brother. To give you an indication of his little personality, when she first started daycare, I think she was maybe 8 months old, he would just hover around her. If there wasn't a teacher around, he'd go and tell you need to go and sit with my baby sister. There's no teachers with her. And he would like, tell them it's her bedtime. He's just this little it was beautiful.
So cute.
Not his problem to worry about, but he's very concerned about his sister. That's him. He loves reading books and going out to restaurants, and just is calm. Even as a newborn in the special care unit, I said, this is just a calm child. The temperament you're gonna love having this temperament as a child, which we do. However, I think as he gets older, he might be influenced by people, so we kind of got to watch that. His sister, on the other hand, is a firecracker. No one tells her what's what or what to do. She will decide what she wants, and she'll make everyone else's life hell until she gets it. So that's a real humbling experience as a parent. It's really interesting, being a parent yourself, and I'm sure all your listeners as well. You can have the same DNA, the same parents, the same upbringing, but they are just so different. So different. Such different temperaments and little ways of working, and so she's a lot, but I think that, like, we joke that she's a mini CEO. She just knows what she wants, kind of goes after it. It's going to be challenging to parent, but hopefully as a teenager she keeps that sort of not being a follower mindset. I hope. God help.
Okay, so when you were doing the MBA / working and when you left the kids at home or either daycare or school, do you get the mummy guilt?
No, and I think there's something wrong with me in this, because I remember talking.
That's awesome.
I remember talking to my friends, like, did you cry when you first dropped off your baby to daycare? I was like, no. Should I have? I don't know. I think my husband maybe did a little bit, but also because again, amazing workplace. They let me do 2 days a week to start with, right? So it was like I was still with the children like the remaining 5 days of the week. So for me, it was just like, yes, I get to go to the office. And I remember sitting in the office and everyone's dressed beautifully. I'm like, none of you have bodily fluids on you. This is so nice. Like, I just loved it. I loved it. My workplace was so supportive. But I can definitely understand, like, a lot of friends who did have the mummy guilt, and like some people just don't have but like aren't fortunate enough to have a supportive environment around them where they can be more flexible. Like if I had to go straight to 5 days, which I've had some friends, that's all their workplace would offer them, I think it would be a different story. Also, we had that return to work coach who would kind of coach us through the emotions, like expect this and expect that, and here's some coping mechanisms. And then also, because I had the daycare that we had would let us bring him a couple of days, like before he actually started, we'd bring him in for an hour here and there every couple of days. So he knew the teachers, and the teachers were really loving and nurturing. So I didn't have that mummy guilt, and I think it's because I eased into it. Could also be that there's something wrong with me. Who knows?
Nothing wrong. Take it as a blessing. If it's not there, one less thing that you have to worry about.
That's it. I think I got it a bit more later on with the studying. That's kind of like I just got really delayed mummy guilt, I think.
Okay, all right. If you could give your younger self one advice, say when you were still that little young girl back in Papua New Guinea, about to go back to Australia, what one advice would you give the young Roslyn?
One would be stay true to yourself. Don't shrink yourself to make other people feel comfortable. You have, everyone has their God-given talents, whatever they are. Don't shrink them for the sake of other people's comfort. I think I would say that because I've seen a lot of myself experience this. I've seen a lot of other women experience this, where you're kind of taught to be passive and say yes and make people feel comfortable, but actually that's not always living true to your talents. I think a really strong leader sometimes does require making some people uncomfortable and making hard decisions. And if you're afraid to do that, then it's going to be really hard to live your full potential. Because if you're doing something that you really like and you're passionate about and you're supposed to do, there are going to be dissenters in the room.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's in a public forum.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
That's awesome. And last question is, what's your Alpha Mum song?
So I was thinking about this. I looked through my playlist. It depends on the mood, but I usually will go with Beyonce, because I think she's just incredibly inspiring with everything she balances and her talents, and she just goes after what she's good at. My song would be, so many to choose from. Might be Formation at the moment. Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
My clearly talented singing voice.
No, I love it. I love the move as well. Okay. So since finishing the MBA, you have welcomed a new role, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about this role. It's something I am quite passionate about. It is in a consulting firm, and what they do is assist companies to create their strategy, but with the customer at the center of it. So looking at with the innovation strategy, how can they meet more customers' needs? And it's by using human-centered design and design thinking to help formulate those strategies. The team I'll be working with, I've met them, and they are just really mind-blowingly talented people. The work they do is awesome and bespoke, and I've intentionally chosen a smaller consulting firm because it does really bespoke the work rather than having that sort of cookie cutter approach. So really excited. I think the role title is officially Director of Innovation Strategy, and I start in a few weeks. Nice. And you'll be working with your ex-facilitator at the AGSM, right? Yes, exactly. Yes, he's awesome. So I think he teaches innovation in the MBA full-time, but he taught me disruption and transformation. Nice. And he's just an incredible, incredible individual. He's got a PhD in computer science, and as a builder, starts up business, sells them. Really, really, really excited for that learning journey. Now that I don't have the MBA to have to study and think about, I can just lean into that, the new role, a new career. I'm so excited for it. Yeah, that's probably the highest possible, not mark, but compliment that you can ever get from your facilitator is when they ask you to join them. So absolutely, and particularly in that topic, in that field, innovation, right? It's just such an awesome place to be, and I think it's combining the sort of the commercial, more robust accounting and finance thinking with the creative and the human-centered design and sort of abstract reasoning. So the fact that he offered me a role was an honor, and I'm so excited. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, Roslyn, thank you so much for taking the time to share your journey with us. Best of luck with the next chapter of your working career, and let's keep in touch. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jane. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
You too. See you then. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Breadwinning Mums. Please subscribe and leave us some feedback so we can continue to make the show better for you. If you know a fellow breadwinning mum, please share the show so we can cheer each other on. Until next time.